Welcome to the Minds of E-commerce podcast, where you'll learn one key strategy that made leading e-commerce companies grow exponentially. We cut the bullshit and keep the meat. In a 15-minute episode, founders and executives take us through a deep dive of a strategy so you get to learn and grow your online sales. In the last episode, you heard from Catherine Lavery, who shared with us how she utilized user-generated content to increase conversion and grow her company, Best Self Co., to an 8-figure business. Today on episode number 3, get ready. Audrey Castonguay, founder and CEO of Wholesome Culture, will share how she tests new products, doubles sales with existing ones, and uses her rule of 1 to keep growing past $1 million in sales a month. I'm your host, Raphael Paulin-Daigle, and I'm the founder of SplitBase, a conversion optimization agency for lifestyle, luxury, and fashion e-commerce brands. This is Minds of E-commerce. All right, Audrey, welcome to the show. So as you know, this podcast is all about diving straight into your business and dissecting one key strategy so our listeners can get the most value right away. So now you've been the founder of Wholesome Culture for how many years now?
So it's been about 2.5 years, almost going on 3.
2.5 years, almost 3. That is pretty impressive because now, tell us about the growth you've had. So I know a bit of your backstory, but, give us some juicy stats or numbers, because you started pretty recently in a way, but you are pretty far from where you started. So what does that growth look like?
Yeah, so let's say last year we were doing 6 figures a month. It was going really well, but it was our first year, so that was kind of amazing. And now, this year, basically, we've now more reached the 7 figures a month number consistently. Obviously, not even only on Q4, not even only like on big season period, but on a consistent basis, which is pretty great. We're really excited about this.
That's amazing. So already around the first year, achieving 6 figures in a month is already pretty interesting. So obviously you've done things right, but now on, going to the third year with 7-figure months, that's even more impressive. So I really want to dive into, some of the strategies and aspects that have helped you achieve that. So people who are listening to us can take away some piece of information and hopefully apply it to their business and also see that sort of growth, right? That's the goal. So you've mentioned focusing on one thing that moved the needle. Was the most impactful thing you've done to grow Wholesome Culture. So can you give us an example of what you've done part of that strategy?
Yeah, sure. So I guess maybe I can explain a little more the thinking behind this one thing that moves the needle, but I think people tend to think about very little thing and give too much importance to those very little details that they think are going to make a difference. But actually, when you think about it, it's not going to make a difference that much at the beginning, at least. For instance, obviously it depends on your market, but for instance, like that people give so much attention to their website and the way the website look and if you just use the first template of Shopify when you start, it's not a big problem, right? So, and that's the same thing as you grow, where it's like it gets really hard to thinking very focused and staying focused on the things that are actually going to make a big difference. So I guess, yeah, and coming back to your question in terms of growth, focusing on what moves the needle the most. Example of this would be, for instance, obviously products are gonna make the needle move. Now, are you gonna just launch completely new products? Or are you gonna launch same products? One thing we've done that really helped us grow is we could have launched an entirely new product and hope that this is gonna crush it. Instead of that, we started launching our winner product in different colors, different version, different type of garment. So that's a very simple example that can be applied, I think, to a lot of businesses where it looks so simple almost that you're like, why would I do that? This product is already in that other color. Although we sold, let's say, I think it was about 3,000 of a product in 1 week in easily, like low ad spend, everything that was running like crazy. And that was only because of that simple thing, right? So really putting your focus, making a list of like, what is going to have the biggest impact on my business right now and where I'm going to put my focus on.
Got it. So for example, you're saying you launched with a number of products. So for example, let's say we look at when you were at 6 figures, approximately how many products would you have on the website?
So on a consistent basis, about 40 products.
Okay. And
But
that's now, or that's when you launched?
When we launched, no, we had like probably 5 products.
Got it. And out of those 5, you, instead of launching completely new different products, you looked at which one of those 5 products performed the best, and you took that product and you created different variations.
Yeah. So really being more data driven instead of trying to reinvent things, being like, okay, what is working the most? What's the easiest quick win, but at the same time, that's going to also have a big impact. So kind of this big factor of like, how easy is it to do this?
Right.
And what's the potential impact on that? Which this rule, I think, can be applied to basically a lot of things, not only growing your business, but just decision making in general. But yeah, that was a big one.
Right. So I know a lot of your products have messaging on them. So, t-shirts with messages. So you talked about colors, but I'm guessing, did you take some of those messages and, for example, apply them to other types of products? Assuming that, hey, if that was popular, it's likely going to be popular in this type of format.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give another example. Yeah, so for instance, we had a design that we launched on the first year that worked well. We kept this product for like 2 years on the website. 3 months ago, we relaunched that product on a new collar shirt. Let's say the first year we did maybe 6 figures, like the entire year with that product. Let's say in 1 month, let's say we did like $500,000 for just this product because we launched a new color. Right. So it was like such a simple little thing, right, that we did that took probably 30 minutes of our time to test.
Got it. Has there been times where that strategy has not been successful?
Yeah, many times. But obviously, like, it's not, it's always a testing and always like trying to figure out what's going to work. What are have the most chances? I think sometimes we did make a lot of assumptions in terms of trying to find an example, but what, like, something that we like one thing, for instance, we're going to find design that we think are going to work really well because we've seen it on another store, but we don't consider all the factor around that, and we create something maybe that is on the same line, but there's so many other factors and our audience is different. And so therefore, even though we try to be data driven, even though we try to base it out of the most potential thing, then it still doesn't work out. But I think the point where it has to be easy and quick wins is like very important.
Got it. So let's say you were to start over with that strategy, and like right now you're sitting in front of your store and you want to utilize that strategy to, keep growing your number of products. What are things that you have to look for that will either determine whether that is likely a success or that copy or variant of that product will fail? Do you have like a few rules of, what will make it work and what, you've learned will probably not work?
Yeah, so usually we're going to look at last year's sales. What product was working really, really well on Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and we're going to retest it on the year after at the same moment with, let's say, different photos or different type of ad graphics and things like that. So really trying to like recreate this thing that worked last year, because most of the time it worked again. So yeah, that's one of the way, looking at the last year's sales. Another way to do this could be just looking at, the previous, I give it a little while. Sometime when something worked really well, we try to like, all right, that worked for 2 months, let it slip there. Okay, it's fine. We pushed the ads really well. It was great. And we're going to come back to it, let's say 3 or 4 months after, and try it, let's say, on a different type of more summer garment, for instance. So that worked for us because we have like clothing. But I think it's also doable for other type of products where like season change, like color models. It's kind of like just everyone has different type of product that they can kind of apply this concept, I think.
For sure. So what you're saying, and I really like it, but just to summarize and put in a linear kind of process. So to make sure that you are maximizing your chances of success, you're effectively looking at, okay, well, this type of product works. Let's try it in a few different variants in different time periods to probably, I'm guessing, minimize seasonality risks, or risk that it was maybe just because of one type of traffic that happened one time. So you're really trying this in a whole lot of different environments, so to speak, and different versions to really put all the chances in your side that this new product that you're, going to have to get made and everything is actually going to sell.
Yes. And one big thing, let me phrase this. So one big thing is we tend to think that we squeeze the product to the last drop. And I think so many times me and my team were like, okay, we're done. Like we did it. We did it to the max. It's like, no, give it 2 months, give it 3 months, come back with new ad graphics, come back with new copy, come back with a new landing page. Like this worked one time. And this can work again. Like if it worked one time with different slightly changes, it can be improved,
Always be improving and testing. I love it.
Yes.
Awesome. So now I'd love to know, so obviously, that was one strategy, and I'm sure if we'd have time, we could dive into many more examples. I know for that matter, you've been focusing a lot on Instagram instead of focusing on other social media channels. So what I'd love to know is, you decided to go all in on Instagram right away. But some other people are going to try a whole bunch of channels at once. Why is focusing on that one thing or that one strategy better than dipping your toes in a whole lot of things?
Yeah, so for sure, we see that a lot. People trying to go everywhere, trying to test everything at the same time, like different channels, trying to find the right channels. I think most of the time, like when you see that there's a potential for one channel, like as soon as you tested a little bit of each, like you shouldn't try to make it work for like a year on like each a little bit on each of those channels. Like if at the beginning we did this, and if we didn't test so many stuff quickly on Instagram, we would have not figured out how to make it work for us. I remember, maybe now a little less, but people would say everywhere, like Instagram ads doesn't work. Even last year, 2 years ago, like, oh, Instagram stories don't work. Oh, it just doesn't work for me. I don't understand. Yeah, of course, you're using your Facebook ads that was working for your Facebook channel. So it was really a matter of like testing so many things in such a short amount of time to figure out a formula that's consistently working. And obviously it's a work in progress. Things always change. Like an ad of last year doesn't last a year, right? It works well for 2 months, maybe. After that, you have to recreate. But at the same time, if you have a basis and you have a process that allows you to test every day, then you're kind of ahead of the curve and you don't lose this little kind of, you were already ahead of the curve a little bit. So you don't want to lose this. So you keep pushing and testing even when it's working well, and not only when you're dropping and when everything doesn't work anymore.
That's fantastic. Again, so I guess I think one of the big lessons here is really focus on something, but instead of just trying little things, it seems like what you're doing is when you're testing something, you're really testing it deeply, right? So you really try to hit all the corners and all the little details. So for example, when you went all in on Instagram, you really tried, looking at it in all its shapes and forms. And be tested and utilized.
It wasn't maybe it's gonna work. It was like, it has to work. There has to be a way.
And I'm gonna make it work.
And I'm gonna make it work. Like kind of the I'm not gonna swear yes rule. Like just yes, it's gonna work. You just gotta figure it out. And people that say, oh, Instagram ads doesn't work for me, most of the time when you ask that to people, they're like, I'm like, oh, so what did you do? What did you test? Oh yeah, we tested a couple of ads here and there. Didn't work. What do you mean? A couple, like, just full on for 1 month, test 4 ads a day, different creative, different mock-up, and then tell me it really doesn't work, because there has to be a way, you know?
Do you have uh do you have a specific, like, do you know, for example, when you're starting new campaigns, do you always have like a specific targeted ad budget that you're using that's always like, oh, by default, every time I'm testing a new campaign or a new ad, I'm putting X amount of dollars? Is it fixed, or is it variable? What's your
No, right now, so I don't do it as much anymore, but I know what budget we put right now. And so here's the thing, like the algorithm changed a lot over time. And now I think that it used to be really hard to have big budget. Now it seems like it's more consistent when you push with big budget than smaller budget. So a year ago, we would go with a bunch of ads that was small budget. Now I would say that we'd much rather go with a big budget right away to see if it can work. So usually
and
one
define big
test,
budget? What does that mean? Like
like
just
a,
for testing campaigns, like when you're testing one campaign, how much money are you putting?
yeah. So probably $100 a day, not the big budget, not $1,000 obviously, but like a good amount, enough to see if there's going to be at least one purchase out of like $100 two purchase. And usually I think you can see after 2 days, so probably $200 spent on a test, and it's like, okay, is this working? If after $200 it looks like it's not going to work, it's not going to work.
Awesome. Yeah. Is there, what indicators are you looking for to see if that campaign is working or not? What are the main metrics, and what's going to make you say, hey, I'm trashing this or I'm keeping it?
We usually look at the return on ad spend right away. I think there's kind of this middle ground of like, if it's 1.2, probably it's not going to work. Right. If it's 1, it's most likely not going to work after $200. And if it's like 1.5, then oh yeah, let's push it. I think this is a medium winner. If it's like 2 and more, we're like, oh, this is gonna rush it, and then we scale it.
Perfect. Awesome. And you're always aiming to increase that number for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there a target, like as you scale those campaigns, do you want to get it further than 2x, or like what is that?
No. So I think as you scale, it never tends to go up, the return, it tends to go down. So if you have a 2.5 or 3x right away, then it's like, let's just like squeeze it until it goes down to 1.6. But then we spend like, I don't know, like 50, 100K in a week, for instance, on like that thing. And I think also if you wait too long, you just lose this momentum. Like, would much rather like scale really, really quick. And for 2, 3, 4 weeks, it's like, oh my God, this is working so well. And at one point, yeah, the return's going to drop, but no, that's part of it.
Well, fantastic. Thanks, Audrey. So now, like, if we're looking at this, that is pretty awesome, because you actually gave us 2 strategies. You explain how you went deep into the, just focusing on one thing and really trying everything in that one strategy to grow the business. So instead of saying, hey, let's see if it's work, you come in with a mindset of, hey, we're going to make this thing work. It is working for others. It's going to work for us. So it looks like it's a mindset thing, but also a really strategy thing.
Yeah.
Set your mind to. And then you looked at, within that strategy, you looked at product variants. So testing different products in different variants, in a whole lot of environments to really find, which ones you could kind of utilize the same features, the same designs, and then replicate it to, expand your product offerings and increase sales without necessarily increasing your traffic. And then we also talked about Instagram ads and how you're evaluating success. So that is fantastic. And one of my last questions for you is, now if we take a broader look to, when we're looking at your company, now you're almost 3 years in, 7 figures a month, which is pretty awesome. Now, if you were to start all over again, or maybe not even all over again, let's say you were back to last year, what would you do differently? What is that one thing?
I know, but that's not going to apply for everyone. I would fix the operation and back end side, because if you scale and you're really convinced that you can scale and you're like, I'm going to crush this, but your backend is not set up to crush it, then it's going to fall apart a little bit. And I would say that, yeah, it just hurt you a lot and it stays, like it's like a stain, So yes,
Right.
make sure your backend is ready. Make sure you fix your foundation really well. As you scale, don't think it was just luck. If you see growth, it's growth, and believe in yourself, because it's worth investing in good operation and foundation.
And here you're talking about shipping, fulfillment, the printing of your
Yeah.
materials.
Yeah, products, fulfillment, being very transparent, communication, especially if you see that there's problems. But yeah, that's a big one.
Got it. All right. So now my final question, do you have 3 tools that are critical to the business at the stage that you are now? Because a lot of our listeners are, at the stage of your business or around the same, 1 to 10 million, a little more. Are there 3 tools that you just find super valuable in running your day-to-day business right now?
That's a good question. I mean, there's many.
Let's say we're talking about marketing and growth.
Yeah, but
you talk about Instagram. Are there any tools for Instagram ads that you love?
All right. So obviously, I mean, okay, let's say the Instagram side of things. Planning is extremely important. Again, planning is key. So I don't use it personally, but I think we use Plannerly or any other tools that allows you to do the planning of the feed. I think last year we were not really doing that much planning, and now we're like 2-3 weeks in advance and adjust based on that. So that's super good. So that's more in terms of just organization. I think most of the tool I'm going to say right now are organization tools, because, oh my God, like being organized is what allow us to grow. The second tool I would say, well, maybe it's a kind of a trick at the same time. All right, I'm going to say the Google Drive sheet that allows us to track daily return and margin for our ad spend via our products. One app on Shopify that I installed, I forgot the name, but I think there's a lot of them. It calculates the cost of goods on a daily, like live basis, right?
Right.
And that's very simple. But now what we do with our paid ad manager, we're just gonna note every day how much we spend. What's the margin? Are the margin consistent? Just to keep track of everything, but also being able to push further when you see that there's room to push further.
Right.
That really allowed us to remove this cap that we had in our head. Sometimes I think it's almost a mental cap of like, oh, we can't spend more. Like the return is like lower than usual. Oh no, it's not 2x, blah, 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 And it's like, no, like you have room to spend more. Why would you not spend more, acquire a new customer? And then, that just make more sense. So being able to not just say, oh, I know my cost. No, but like, look at the sheet, like know your number properly. And I would say that just in general, or just Asana, that I'm really bad at using because I'm so disorganized, but my entire team's using it and it's so good. Like it's been helping us a lot, staying on track of the things. And I think
that's 3.
For now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So Audrey, that was super fantastic. So thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all this goodness with us. I think you shared a lot of very actionable items, and that was fantastic. And now if people want to keep track of what you're doing, or keep track of Wholesome Culture, what are the links or social media or whatever that they should follow?
All right, so wholesomeculture.com, and Instagram is also Wholesome Culture, so should be pretty straightforward.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you, Audrey. And
thank you.
Have a nice day.
You too.
All right, that's it for today's episode. And in the next episode, you'll hear from Ahmed Zidane, co-founder of Hodijab, and you'll learn how they manage to scale fast using data to make better web design decisions, how they use customer insights to drive their A/B testing program, and how they built a culture of experimentation within their company. To make sure you don't miss any of the new episodes, subscribe to the podcast. And if you've liked what you've heard, make sure to leave a review in the iTunes store. That would truly mean the world to me. Now, if you're working on an e-commerce store that does over $1 million in revenue in online sales, and increasing conversions is currently a priority, make sure to go to splitbase.com/assessment to get a free analysis of your website. That's splitbase.com/assessment. And find out what's the number one action item our conversion experts recommend you do next to boost conversions. If you have any guest requests, questions, or comments, tweet me at rpaulin-daigle, that's RPAULINDAIGLE, and I'll be happy to hear from you. Thanks again for listening. This is Minds of E-commerce.